The seller's page said unlimited. One proxy. Run as many accounts as you like. Stack them all behind the same clean address and go. So you did? You put 20 accounts on one line and warmed them up, and for a week it looked fine. Then they dropped. Not one at a time, but in a clump, the same quiet afternoon. The way accounts always go when the thing tying them together is the address they share. Today is how many accounts you can actually run per proxy, and why the honest number is so much smaller than anyone selling you the proxy will ever admit. I run proxy and cloud phone farms and manage large fleets of separate identities, and I learned this ratio the expensive way by stacking accounts too tight on one line and losing them together. There is no magic count I can hand you that works everywhere, but there is a real way to think about it, and it starts with understanding that the number is never about the proxy alone. It is about how many accounts a platform is willing to see behind one address before it decides that address is a farm. So start with why there's a limit at all. An IP is just an address, a return label the platform reads on every request before anything else happens. When 2 accounts arrive from the same address, the platform notices, and when 10 do, it more than notices, it starts counting. Every serious platform keeps a rough tally of how many separate accounts touch each address because that count is one of the cleanest farm signals there is. Real addresses have a natural spread of people behind them. A farm is one operator pretending to be a crowd. So the real thing being measured isn't the proxy, it's density. How many of your accounts pile onto one address in a given stretch of time? A handful of accounts quietly using one residential line over weeks looks nothing like 30 fresh accounts all logging in from the same address on the same night. Same proxy, wildly different story, because the platform isn't reading the address in isolation, it's reading how crowded you made it and how fast you made it that way. This is why unlimited is the tell that the seller doesn't run accounts themselves. No address on earth safely holds unlimited accounts, and the ones selling you rotating pools with that promise are usually handing the same crowded addresses to thousands of other buyers at once, so you're not even starting from a clean line. You're stacking your accounts on top of strangers already burning it. Unlimited isn't a feature, it's the sound of someone who has never watched a fleet drop together. So what are the honest numbers? On a data center address, the truthful answer is close to 1, and even that one is arriving on a network that already looks like a server instead of a person, so it's fighting uphill from the first request. A data center IP is cheap because it's weak, and piling several identities onto a single cheap data center line is the fastest way I know to lose all of them at once. If you're serious about an account, it doesn't belong on a data center address at all, let alone sharing one. On a residential address, a real home line, you get a little room because a genuine household can honestly have a few people and a few devices behind it. A small number of accounts on one steady residential line can look like a family sharing the Wi-Fi. Push past that and the household story breaks, because no ordinary home has 20 separate logins to the same platform running out of it. So the honest residential number is a few, not a few dozen, and it drops fast the stricter the platform gets. On a mobile address, a real carrier line, you get the most room of all, and there's a real reason for that. Behind one mobile carrier address sit thousands of ordinary phone users sharing it at the same time, so the platform genuinely cannot be harsh with that address without punishing a crowd of real customers. That shared, human shape is why a mobile line tolerates more accounts than a home line, and far more than a data center one. It's the most forgiving address you can put density on, which is exactly why I keep my most crowded, lower value work on mobile. But every one of those numbers moves depending on the platform, and this is the part the seller never mentions. A relaxed platform that barely cares might let a dozen accounts share a line for ages. A strict one, the kind that guards payments or valuable social accounts, gets nervous at 2 or 3 from the same address, and a bank or a payment app can flag on the second. The same proxy holds 10 accounts on a lenient platform and 1 on a ruthless one, so the honest number is always accounts per address per platform, never just accounts per address. The value of the account changes the math too. The identities you'd be sad to lose, the aged ones, the ones with money or reputation attached, earn their own line, one address carrying one important identity and nothing else. The throwaway accounts, the fresh ones you're still warming and wouldn't mourn, can share a line more loosely, because if a crowded address gets flagged, you've lost some cheap warm-ups, not the account that took months to build. Spend your clean addresses where the loss would actually hurt. And here's the trap even careful people fall into, thinking this is purely a counting game. It isn't only how many accounts share the address, it's how identical they are on top of it. 5 accounts on one line, each with its own fingerprint, its own pace, its own separate content, is a far weaker signal than 5 accounts on one line, all wearing the same browser fingerprint and moving in lockstep. The shared address is one edge, the shared fingerprint is another, the shared behavior a third. And when they all point the same way, the platform doesn't need to count carefully, you've drawn it the picture. There's a quieter danger to density too, contagion. When several of your accounts sit on one address and a single one of them gets flagged, that suspicion doesn't stay politely on the guilty account, it spreads to the address, and every other account you parked there inherits a little of the heat. That's the real cost of stacking too tight. It isn't only that you might get caught, it's that one careless account can pull down every sibling sharing its line. Thin the density and you cap the blast radius when one of them goes bad. The reputation of the address itself sets the ceiling before you add a single account. A fresh, clean line with no history holds more than a line that's already been flagged, and a line that 100 spammers hammered before you touched it may not safely hold even one. This is why the address you choose matters as much as the number you put on it. A clean, sticky line from a network that looks like a real person lives there gives you room, and a cheap, recycled one gives you none, no matter how careful your count. Timing folds into it as well. The single worst shape you can make is a pile of brand new accounts all created and warmed on one fresh address in one short burst, because that's a farm being born in plain sight, no history, high density, all at once. Accounts that came up slowly, spread over time, on an address with some quiet age on it, sit far more comfortably together. So if you must share a line, share it with established identities that have earned some trust, never with a batch of newborns all taking their first steps in formation. A word on rotating proxies here, because people reach for them thinking rotation raises the limit. It doesn't, it just hides the count from you. If your address changes under an account every few minutes, that account's own history smears across 100 addresses, which is its own tell. And meanwhile, every one of those addresses is being shared with whoever else is in the pool. Rotation is for scraping, for jobs where no login has to stay put. For accounts you want a sticky address, one steady line per identity, and on a sticky line the density question is honest and visible instead of hidden behind a shuffle. So how do I actually decide when an identity gets a line all to itself? I look at 4 things: how much I'd hate to lose it, how strict the platform is, how many other accounts already share that address, and whether anything on the line has been flagged. A valuable identity on a strict platform gets its own clean line, no debate. A cheap warm-up account on a lenient platform can share. Everything in between is a judgment call, and when I'm unsure I give it its own line, because a spare address is cheap and the lost account is not. If you want a plain starting point, here's the one I use. Treat a data center line as one account, and honestly not even that. Treat a residential line as a small handful at most, fewer the stricter the platform. Treat a good sticky mobile line as your most forgiving option, but still not a dumping ground, and give anything you truly care about its own line entirely. Then watch what actually happens to your own accounts and tighten from there, because your platforms and your account ages will move the real number, and the only ratio that matters in the end is the one your own fleet survives. Let me be plain about the boundary, because this sits near a bad place. This is about running your own honest, separate accounts without wrongly bundling them onto one address until they all fall together. It is not a recipe for defrauding a platform, evading law enforcement, or dodging a ban you actually earned. I'm not going to help with any of that. Spreading your own legitimate identities across clean addresses so they aren't mistaken for one machine is housekeeping. Using the same trick to cheat real people is not, and I won't pretend the two are the same. And keep it in proportion, because no ratio makes an account untouchable. Thinning the density lowers your risk of being linked through the shared address. It does nothing to save an account that behaves like a bot, posts stolen content, or trips a rule that has nothing to do with the IP. Anyone telling you a magic number of accounts per proxy will keep you safe forever is selling you a story. The density is one leg you'd been getting wrong, and fixing it just stops you from handing the platform the easiest farm signal there is. Here's the stack I actually run. The identities I least want to lose get their own sticky line, usually a mobile one, and the ones I care about most sit on cloud phones, real devices on real carrier lines where the address and the hardware are both genuinely their own. The cheaper warm-up work shares mobile lines more loosely, spread over time, never a pile of newborns on one fresh address. I run Singapore mobile proxy and cloud phone farms myself, so when I tell you the honest number is small and the account you value gets its own line, that's the setup I run on Live Accounts Talking, not an affiliate guess. The full written guides and tested picks are at multiaccount.ops.com, including how I pick a sticky address per identity and honest write-ups of the proxies and cloud phones I use. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, the fingerprint side of this same problem. Why two accounts on two perfectly separate addresses still get linked when they share one browser signature, and how I keep every identity looking like its own real device.